My name is Paul Siegel. Thanks for tuning in. This is the first video in what's going to be a series of videos featuring some tutorials on painting and sculpting and all kinds of cool stuff that you can do with the Armature 9 series of products. So this video is going to essentially be about starting painting. I'm going to be using Photoshop, so I guess you could think of this as a digital painting tutorial. Although you'll notice that the way I work is very much like you would work traditionally, so it applies to traditional artists as well. Obviously, the first step that I'm going through is working with my rider, which is the 5.5-inch tall version of the biped armature. And even though it's more limited in its range of motion, it's got quite a bit it can do. And I love the fact that it's so light because I can stick its hand in a little bit of clay and make poses like the ones you're seeing here. Clay, by the way, is a fantastic way to help you pose your armature. It's a great platform. You can even put it between limbs if you're trying to give some limbs like muscle, like strength for certain poses that are hard to hold. And it makes it really fun to work with. Most artists will hire a model, and the model will come to their studio and they'll give them some art direction, but then ultimately the pose is up to what the model can come up with and whatever he or she is capable of doing with their body. Here you're essentially controlling the model with your hand, so it's a lot of fun to just tweak and change things around and just play with the posture of the figure. And there's so much you can do with the articulation. It is hard not to just have a lot of fun with it. Here you're seeing me play with lighting as well, because that's important and a crucial part of the process. I like using little reading lamps because the size of the light is a good scale for the figures given their size. And I'll use that to see how light and shadow is interplaying with the figure until I find something I like, and then I take photographs. So this is the photograph I took, and I've taken it into Photoshop, and I'm starting to paint over it. At this point, the task is pretty simple. You're essentially just blocking things out, borrowing the colors and the values that are already on the figure, and isolating those planes. So you want to get rid of anything that is armature-like and start to flesh it out so that it's more human-like, but while staying true to the proportions and the perspective and the posture that the armature was able to provide you, because the armature is very accurate in its proportion. So you're just isolating all the planes and doing that through color and value. Now, even though I'm sticking pretty close to the figure, that doesn't mean you have to. I mean, you could grab the Photoshop warp tool and change things around and change the proportions and make it look like a creature or a monster very easily, and I'll have tutorials about that later on. But this time I just wanted to keep it simple and just focus on the figure in the nude. I'll do costumes some other time. That'll be fun to do with clay and things of that sort. But here it's the theme is perhaps a little cliche, so it's definitely easy to take on. He's obviously very tormented, and so I'm going to make start to make an illustration here where I communicate that sense of terror and desperation, almost like someone who was rejected by the angels in heaven and sent down to the pits of hell, or about to be sent down to hell. I'm also at this point departing quite a bit from the original source material. I just used it as the starting point, and now I can just start to have fun. What I'm doing here is an important part of the process. Now that I've blocked in all the colors, I really want to figure out exactly what anatomical landmarks I want to make sure I get right. And so I'm essentially drawing at this point. So it's kind of backwards, I guess. Most people would draw and then paint over their drawing, But here I'm blocking things out with color, and then I'm going in and drawing over that. And I'm doing this specifically because it's going to help me with the next part of the process, which is to isolate the shape of the figure from the background, so or the silhouette, because I really want to make sure I have a clean break between the outline of the figure and the background, and I want the two to relate to each other. So here you can see me painting away the parts of the background that were creeping into the figure and adding parts to the figure that needed to be added. So I'm essentially cleaning up the outline, but doing it in the painterly way, just borrowing some of those same colors. And as I'm doing this, I want to be careful, of course, not to get too caught up in the details. I'm doing some fingers there, but still keeping it pretty rough. You really want to work your way around the entire figure before you get too focused on the details. I might be spending too much time on the details myself here, but still, it's not too bad. And all this, by the way, is me attempting to arrive at a good underpainting, which is essentially the starting point you'll need to then build all the details for the piece. Now I'm starting to block in some more anatomical details, some muscles. You can imagine, of course, that this is now a complete departure from the original source material. I'm starting to add some atmospheric lighting to try to make him feel like he's in this place, in this environment. The beauty, of course, of working digitally is you can do what I'm doing there, which is grab chunks of your painting and move them around. If you have second thoughts about how you placed a body part, you can just scoot it over. But other than that, I've just been using a hard brush with a bit of an angle to it in Photoshop. And I've been working flat on a single layer. My background is in traditional art, and so working this way really comes naturally to me. Some artists will work in multiple layers, and there are lots of benefits to that. But and I used to do that as well, but I found it slowed me down too much, and I just wanted to, most of the time I just want to paint for fun and just explore things. If you're working as part of a team, of course, and with other people, chances are you'll want to be working in layers so that art directors and art leads and collaborators can easily go in and collaborate on pieces, make changes, isolate things for marketing later on, things of that sort. But for this, I'm just painting flat because it's just for me, just having fun. And obviously I'm starting to add some elements to the atmosphere, like faces in the background, demonic faces in the background, and the god rays from above to try to imply a little bit of the story. And at this point, you're really just looking at the painting. You're no longer looking at the armature, right? So you're just using your eyes and having fun and following your heart. Adding the additional anatomical detail is going to add some believability. Okay, so here I've skipped forward like 10 minutes into the piece, and you can see, have a better idea for where it's headed. I've made the colors much brighter, almost cartoony, especially with the characters in the background, and kind of like making it look sort of evil but comical at the same time. And at this point, I feel like I've arrived at a sort of a good underpainting stage. where I can assess it and decide whether or not this composition is working, whether I want to take it beyond this point and start to add the details, because the details are really where you're going to end up spending, potentially spending a lot of your time. Although I find if you do your underpainting right, then you don't have to spend a lot of time with your details. But hopefully this gives you a good start, and you can start working on some cool pieces and know how to go about doing it. If you want to look at some of my other work and some of my finished paintings, and if I end up finishing this painting, this is where I'll post it. I'll be posting it on my Facebook page. Just go to kpcolors.com and you can see some of my other digital illustrations, which have been done this way. This is the technique I use. I just work flat, work with a hard brush, and later on I'll be posting some additional tutorials on how to do some of the finishing work. We're going to talk about costumes and things of that sort. So subscribe to this YouTube channel and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'd be happy to help. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.